Good morning, friends. It's Tuesday morning. It's just a little after 9:30, and it's time for coffee on the porch. This is a weekly live stream that I do here now on Substack. We have people who join us from all over the country for an hour long of conversation, music, spirituality, music, politics, life are all on the agenda on Coffee on the Porch. We're glad you're joining us live. For those of you who are popping on, apologies for being a few minutes late. I'll explain that in a moment. We are now live here on Substack. It's been a good home so far. Oh, that's not exactly the chord it should be. There it is. The last resolve should be that. Welcome, y'all. Oh my. Wow, there's always a lot happening in the world every week when we gather here, and that is the case. I guess I'm going to move the whole thing forward a bit. You don't need to know that. I don't know why. I don't know why I say these things out loud. Welcome. As I readjust things. It's Coffee on the Porch. I was late because these slides here were slow in loading, but they finally did load, and I have some pictures that just for selfish reasons I wanted to share with you today. Let me begin by welcoming you and saying hi to the many people who have popped on. We got a big crowd. Good morning, Rick Lang. Rick, I am talking a lot about your hometown today, buddy. Good to see you. Good morning, Cat Bird. Dan Gilliam, welcome. I don't think we've seen you in a couple weeks. Janie Henderson, David Griggs, welcome. Susan J, welcome. John Crossweight, Pal ZDL. Good morning, Tara Lang. Welcome to you. Good morning, Carol Ann. Carol Ann, it was good to see you at church on Sunday. It was so great to see you in the real world. Good morning, Roxanne Anderson, Nancy Kelly, Debbie Berger. I'm assuming that means Bobby is close by. Good morning, Karen Zundel from Pennsylvania. We're glad to have you back. Good morning, Ken. Hey, Ken. We'll see Ken just a bit from now. Good morning, Michael Wesley. Oh, you have I meant to get your picture, a picture of you in the hat. That was fun. Georgia Harris. Good morning. Yeah, Karen's saying this. She was away for a couple of weeks. Glad to be back. We are glad you are here. Both the Burgers say hi. And yes, Rick is honing in on where we're going today. Good morning, Michael Wesley. Good morning, Linda from Ohio. Peg Davis. David Dean. Welcome, David Dean. I still don't know if you're my friend David Dean who lives 3 streets over or if this is a different David Dean. Anyway, we're glad. Rick says sending prayers for Mason, Kerrville, and surrounding counties. Yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about today, buddy. As you might imagine. Let's get ourselves oriented quickly and just move into it. This is Coffee on the Porch. We are now here live on Substack. We moved here 6 weeks ago. Oh, Susan Williams, welcome. Oh my. All right, David, I'm going to come back to that point in a minute. The text reminders seem to be working, although you guys now get an email. If you subscribe on Substack, you get a little email reminder, and you can subscribe for free, and please do subscribe for free. You don't need to pay unless you want to, and I'm happy to give you that option. Good morning, Junie. Michelin. I think that's how you might say that. Well, anyway, good morning. Good morning, Janet Thomas from Seattle, Washington. If you want a reminder, a little nudge 30 minutes ahead of when we go on, then hit this QR code and you will get a little text message reminder ahead of time. All right, friends, we're going to move right into it. The first thing we do here is take a deep breath, breathe deep. Lord knows I need it. It's been a crazy few weeks. Take a deep breath. I've already got a big cup of coffee because I needed it this morning, but get your drink of choice. Get your drink of choice and your cup of choice. Pour a big tall one for yourselves. Cheers, my friends. It's coffee on the porch. It says it on the cup. Take a moment and ask yourself, how am I? How am I doing? How is my soul? That's the question on the floor. We want you to respond. We want you to leave a note. Of course, some of you have the new Coffee on the Porch mugs, which also have it right on there. How is your soul? See, you take a sip, and you are forced to see that question. How am I? How am I doing? It's a crazy time. There's a lot going on. There's always a lot going on. We say that every week now in church. I'm really getting sick of saying it, but it's true, and it remains true, and it's just annoying. It's just annoying how much stuff there is going on, right? But there's a lot to talk about. So how are you? How are y'all doing? We've had big news in Texas. That's pretty much all I'm going to want to talk about today. Good morning, Susan Baxley. And I'm going to noodle on the guitar while y'all leave a comment. This is kind of a mournful song that I wrote some time back. It's just a little instrumental. It's kind of perfect, I suppose. For this moment. That song is called Surrender. It's written in a hard time for me, and it's meant to be my own surrender to God, to the things I can't control. And I am feeling all of that this week for sure. Absolutely feeling all of that this week. All right, y'all, let me run this back and see what you're saying. Cat Bird says this. Kat says she's a work in progress, decided I needed to reach out instead of expecting people to call me having lunch with some friends. Kat, that's always a great idea. I think if you're introverted especially, you don't realize it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that other people might well be going through the same isolation you are. And reaching out can be quite surprising sometimes, yes? In positive ways. So I'm glad you're doing that. That's wonderful. Roxanne says this. She's lonely and isolated. You talked about this last week, Roxanne. I'm really sorry to hear that. I know where you are, and you've shared a little bit about your life too, and I'm very sorry for that. The lack of real world community is a big challenge, and let's talk more about how to help with that. Okay, these are bumping around because you keep saying things, which is good. Dan Gilliam says this. Thank you for missing me. Had cancer surgery and unfortunately had to miss, but I'm back. I hope you are doing well, Dan. David Griggs is back from Northeast Arkansas, Fort Smith State Park. Know it well. Visited University of Arkansas for the first time. Watched the horrific events over the weekend from our cabin TV. David, that's one of my favorite places in the world, that part of the world, the NWA, as they call it. And it's Northwest Arkansas is where you were, by the way. I'm pretty sure is what you meant. NWA is what they call it. Not a rap group. It's a beautiful part of the world. Rick Lang says, my soul is doing well, praying for Mason, Kerrville, surrounding counties. Tara says, my soul is high anxiety because I got fireworks shot at my door. What? David Griggs says, sad, depressed, frustrated, but hanging on there. And yes, David, you told me this last week. I apologize. I have a short memory. You told me that. Too much going on that's depressing and heartbreaking, praying and grieving, says Dan Gilliam. Yes. Oh, crap. That's what I should be playing today. Oh, Karen's reminding me of the Ellis Paul Woody Guthrie song, God's Promise. I might just throw that in here off the top of my head. That's a great song for right now. It really is. Thank you. Thank you. Carol Ann says this. Mike, who is Carol Ann's fiance, was so glad to meet in real life. The guy you talk about, yes, the guy you talk about all the time, especially love the Grace tune. It's always good to gather in person. It is good. It is good for the soul. It really is. Yeah, it was great to see you in the real world. And of course, I did that song last week here as well. You got a preview last Tuesday. Linda Waring says, my soul is calm. Wonderful. So good. Even when the world is chaotic and people are grieving losses, God can keep us focused on what we can do for others. Good morning, James from Houston. Welcome. Okay, Rick, you're sending me pictures and invitations, and I will look at all the stuff a bit later, if you don't mind. But I am looking forward to that. Oh, yeah. Hell is empty and the demons are here, our country right now. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty rough. Michael Wesley says this. I'm aggrieved, dismayed, wishing I could address the losses of friends in the hill country. Regardless, I will stand resolute and seek resolution for myself and others. Nancy Kelly says, I'm not suffering alone. Glad I'm not suffering alone. Had a major meltdown Sunday as family divides. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that, Nancy. Susan Williams says this. Hello from Starkville, Mississippi. I think, yeah. I lived in Houston and Austin for 40 years. Attended Emmaus Walk at Mount Wesley. I know. Special place and heartbroken. For those who don't know what she's talking about, that is our United Methodist camp in Kerrville, Texas. Once upon a time, it was out on a hill, kind of out from town. It's now been surrounded. It's very similar to Mount Sequoia in northwest Arkansas, where it's up on a mountain I know the Methodists were doing the same thinking. They thought, we'll put it right outside of town. Well, towns grow. And in both cases, the town has kind of surrounded the camp now. Still beautiful in both cases, but still now very much in the towns. And there's a lot going on there. We're going to be talking a lot about Kerrville today. Thank you all. And I would be interested to know, do you guys have folks that you know personally who have been affected by all of this? I certainly do. And that is what is on my heart. Good morning, Blue Bunny. Welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you for sharing how your souls are. I'm glad you're here. We have a good crowd today, and we have a lot going on, y'all. I'm wearing my shirt. It's the one I got this year. This is an old design. I think this is the first. This might even been the first shirt they ever had back in the 1970s for the Kerrville Folk Festival, and somehow the word "good time" got put in there. Kerrville Good Time Music Festival. Hot dang! And of course, I have a million folk festival shirts now in the dresser over there. And I want to talk about that. I'm going to take a lot of moments of personal privilege, and y'all are going to help me process this a bit as well, whether you want to or not. I would love to hear from you about your friends and family that you're wrestling with. I think we should say that even for those, Robert Wolanski wrote something for the Dallas Morning News, my friend Robert Wolanski, just last night. That's really summed it up well. He said, so many of us have ties to the hill country one way or the other, especially if we went to school in Austin. You know, if you went to school in Austin, the hill country is just to your west. You can see it from Austin. And so that's where my introduction was, but it went well beyond that, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment, where I just absolutely have fallen in love with that part of the country, and a big part of my soul lives down there. This is absolutely true in my life. Michael Wesley is saying this. Good morning, Ann Swan. Welcome. Michael Wesley says, a beloved friend lost 4 family members, 2 of whom the children have not been located. Horrifying. This is what's happening to all of us. We know people directly affected by this. I know people whose family have died. I know people whose homes are gone. In fact, literally this morning, I'm monitoring some messages from a group of folks. You can't get around down there still. Look, y'all, it's still a disaster scene. It's still a recovery zone. There are still missing humans that they are still searching for. And so you can't just drive in to the worst part yet. But I have some friends, I'm not going to mention their names, but they are literally this morning, just got a text that they got through Ingram on the way to hunt. They are going to look and see what is left of a house there. So yeah, it's very close to the bone for many of us. Let's see. David Griggs says this, backing up. Things are upside down. Netanyahu, oh my God, really? Nominates Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize for bombing Iran. The IRS says that churches can now endorse candidates. Really? I hadn't heard that. Also, I should mention there was some kind of crazy attack on an ice facility in Alvarado. I'm very disturbed about this. This is not good. This is not going to be helpful. And just let's hold that. Rick Lang says this: talk about your time in Mason. Thank you for the segue, buddy. That's where I'm going this morning. I'm going to process this with you. Hey, Bryn. Good morning, friend. Good morning, Paula. I assume that's you, Paula. Is that right? I'm just going to talk a little bit about the hill country and about what it means to me. There's a part of my life. There's a if you believe in alternate timelines, I almost ended up in the hill country by it was about 24 hours that made the difference. When I was a seminary, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Here it is. Here's a picture. Here's the hill country. This is what's so beautiful about it. This is a picture I took in 1988-ish, 1989-ish, when I was still a seminary student. We had to do an internship, and what that meant was you went off and you served at a church somewhere. And I had grown up my whole life here in Dallas, and I just decided to myself, I need to go somewhere totally different. I mean, this is literally my thinking. Well, it was two thoughts. One was, I think a rural area would be good for me. The other was, I really had fallen in love with Austin and the hill country. And I could see myself going there for ministry. That would involve being in a different annual conference, a conference now called the Rio, Texas Conference. So I decided I would do my internship down there rather than in North Texas. I explicitly asked to go away and to be sent there if they could find a place. And the place they found was the little church that Rick has already mentioned of Mason, First United Methodist Church of Mason, which Rick knows well. This was Rick's home church growing up. And I was the associate pastor there at this beautiful stone brick church, stone church. There's me playing a guitar that I will play in just a moment. In the sanctuary there, you can see the paraments. It appears to have been Advent when this picture was taken. But that's how I look. Look at that beautiful hair, by the way. Look at that non-gray, beautiful hair. Look at the big glasses. By the way, I'm back to big glasses. I have the same size glasses again. Oh my, look at those big glasses. Woo! 1980s. Gotta love it. But there I am as the very serious young pastor in Mason, Texas. Yes, and my supervisor, my boss, was a guy named Tom Elliott. Tom Elliott is Rick's grandfather. Rick's mother was I think, 13-year-old girl, 12, 13-year-old girl when I was there in 1988. And I loved my time there. I already loved the hill country, but my God, to live there for a year. And I learned all sorts of things that I didn't know. It was a completely different experience from my life. There I am. Well, that's me taking the picture. That's not me in the picture. That's a friend named John running his cows. I did a lot of running the cows, y'all. I mean, that was the ministry. You go visit people where they are, and half the congregation was out in the fields with their cows. There's John feeding them. So this is what I would do. I would go out and visit people, talk to people, get to know people, get to know these beautiful hill country folks. Mason is on the northern edge of the hill country. So from Kerrville, you go north and you hit Fredericksburg. You go north from there and you hit Mason. It's Mason County sits right on top of Kerr County, basically, which is the county where Kerrville is. I believe that's right. There may be a county in between. I don't think so. So there's the town square in Mason. That's a picture I took. It's a picture I took there. And oh wait, I thought I didn't add a picture. I had some folk festival pictures I was going to add too. But I would go. It's a slower pace there, slower pace, which was nice, beautiful. I had a pickup truck. Already had one, so I fit in. At least with that. But they tolerated me. I was a city boy. I had country roots through my mother's family, but it was Tomball. Oh, and did you know? Oh shoot, my friend whose name is now Karen Roberts, married to my friend Stu. Now I can't think of her maiden name. She was from Tomball. They were dairy farmers in Tomball. Karen. Shoot, now I can't think of her maiden name. It's been 30 years. Anyway, she was from Tomball. So, the ministry of walking around, being with people, I learned so much about people from the country. And I learned their resilience. And I learned that if you're going to live out, if you're going to be out on a ranch that is 100 miles from a major metropolitan city, Mason was exactly 100 miles from both Austin and San Antonio. You were literally to be in Mason was to be out, And if people got sick, there was no hospital in Mason. There was a little clinic that the doctor had to meet you at. There was a very tiny hospital in Fredericksburg. There's a decent-sized hospital in Kerrville, but that was the line. You'd go from Fredericksburg to Kerrville to San Antonio if you were sick. And of course, now we have CareFlight. CareFlight was incredibly expensive then, and most people drove a long way, 2 hour, an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to medical care. So it's pretty humbling to realize that. And I had a full blown anxiety attack, y'all. The first night I spent there, I had driven in through the hills and into the hills, and I'd been in the hills before. But this was my first night to spend in the hill, and I suddenly realized we were 100 miles. It was just 100 miles of cactus, cows, and rattlesnakes, and deer and armadillos between me and civilization. And I literally did that night. I had a full-blown anxiety attack. Oh my God, what have I done? Where am I? How am I going to live here? What if something happens to me? What if I get sick? I mean, it was breathing heavy, chest hurting, 2 a.m. Now, what had happened was that Rick's mom, Debbie, who was this 13-year-old kid, I'd been over at Tom's house for dinner that first night, and she came running in the middle of dinner. She said, Dad, she said, the neighbors found a rattler in their garage with babies. And I'm thinking, where am I? Okay, rattlesnake out in the field somewhere. Okay, I suppose I was mentally ready for that. Rattlesnake in the garage of your house in the city? No, was not ready for that. So this added to that panic attack. But somewhere about 2 a.m, I was praying and really very anxious. I think I almost called Tom in the middle of the night. And I just said to myself, but Eric, these people, they all live here every day. They've lived here for decades, and they're fine. And there is obviously a way to do this. You just have to learn that. And so I went to sleep, finally. Good morning, Larry Pennington. But it taught me the whole year taught me the resilience of people who live that far out in the country and live among nature like that, live among these hills. The trade-off that you make to live in the hill country is this is your view, and it's gorgeous and it's beautiful. It really is. It's Texas. It feels so much like what we imagine. Yeah, and there were no cell phones back then. So when you drove, you drove. And speaking of driving, then on my days off, I would get in my truck. This is absolutely true. There's no Google Maps, there's no Apple Maps. I would just pick a direction out of town. There were 4 ways you could go. I would typically go one of 3 ways, either east, west, or south, basically, from there. And I would just drive for half a day till it was lunchtime. And then I would try to figure out what the nearest town was. I would go and have lunch, and I would take pictures like these. And I drove all over the hill country. I mean, literally on my days off. And then at noon, I would pick out the map. I had this big thing called Roads of Texas, which they had back then, which was this thick, oversized book. And every page was about half of a county, like big pages. And it had every state highway, every city road, and every county road. So you could literally, this is where I learned about county roads. I'd never been on old county roads. County roads are awesome. I drive them all the time out at the lake house now. And that's where I learned that, county roads are great, but you got to know where they are. And so I would look at the map and see where I was and figure out my route back. And I would do that. I did that so often, and it was wonderful. And that's how I fell in love with the country. Yes, Rick, in fact, I have a picture of the Bat Cave in Mason, and I almost posted that today. It was one of the pictures in the contention. But what I wanted you to see, y'all, that if you're from different parts of the country, I wanted you to see these pictures. This is a hill country river. Rick, I think this is the James River, I believe. Here's my problem. It's been 30 years. It's been 30 years, and I am going to show you some river pictures. I'm not sure where all of them are, but I'm pretty sure this is the James River. I camped out at the James River a couple of times. Had some friends who owned land there who just let us camp. And that was within walking distance, Rick, of the Bat Cave. So I think the Bat Cave is just to the right of that picture, I'm pretty sure. Here's another river picture again. Hey, welcome, James. Good to see you, buddy. What I want you to see is how shallow these rivers are. Okay, but here's what you see. You got a dam on the right, and then you got the river, the actual river depth on the left. But this one here, you can walk across this. It's 6 inches of water. 6 inches of water, roughly, most of the time. Now, this one has a lot of water. This is on the way to Austin. I'm pretty sure that's Lake LBJ. I just thought that was a beautiful shot. But here's another little lazy river. I think that might be Inks Lake State Park. I'm honestly not sure. My point is it all runs together. It's all one beautiful, beautiful area. But the rivers often look like this, y'all. This is what it looks like. That's what they see. Or this. That's what you see. You see these very shallow rivers that run, and they're beautiful. But you can walk through them, y'all, most of the time. And most of the time it's hot, it's dusty. Most of the time it doesn't rain. There's jokes about rain. The ranchers make jokes about the lack. Well, just look at the vegetation there. That's the way it looks all the time. It's just dry. It's just dry mesquite, caliche. And you can see right there how there's no topsoil. Do you see the caliche stone? That's stone you're looking at for the most part. There's maybe 3 inches of soil, and then it's just stone. And so when it rains, there is no place for that water to go. Absolutely no place for that water to go. And so, yeah. So, there've been a lot of conversation in the last few days and a lot of blame being put around. And I here's where I go. I think it's absolutely right to ask, what could the federal government have done more? This is about any disaster, anytime. Was the federal government ready? Could they have gotten ready? Was the state government ready? Could they have gotten ready? Let's ask those questions. But y'all, the local officials generally are also affected by whatever it is that's happening. And so Kerrville is near and dear to my heart. And again, I'm sorry the folk festival picture didn't make it in. But I've been going down 25 years, about a decade after I lived in Mason, 15 years after I lived in Mason, I started going to the folk festival. And now I've been going down there for 25 years. And so I added it up. I've probably spent a year and a half of my life in the hill country. And counting a week or 10 days every year, plus the year I was there. Yeah. And that's a beautiful part of the hill country. It looks a lot like this picture. Really does. This is just the way it is, and how beautiful it looks. And I got to tell you, the local officials are all. Oh, here I did have a folk festival picture. I'm sorry, it wasn't in the right place. There we are. That's Kerr County. That's again exactly how the hill country looks everywhere in the hill country. And there we are on Fajita Thursday. There's George with his tongs cooking fajitas for about 300 people. And we had a big fajita cookout on this beautiful, you look how beautiful the sky and the sun is. And that's our camping out there. But I got to tell you, I feel like let's be gentle with the local officials. Yeah, you might ask why they didn't have an early warning system. I think that's a fair question, but it's also true that we are only 10 years from not being able to call on a phone out there. When we were at the folk festival, I think it's only been about 10 years that the cell tower service was good enough to actually make a call. I would be out there and I would not be able to communicate with Denise, except I guess you could walk way up the hill and sometimes get a decent signal. No internet. Forget that. That wasn't a thing. So, and to this day, I'm very confident that there are many, many dead spots all throughout Kerr County. So it's a complicated matter because of this geography, because of these hills and these valleys. At the festival, we are in a valley, but we're in a very broad valley. And there is a creek. Yes, there is a little creek called Sudden Creek because suddenly it can come up. I camp right next to Sudden Creek, y'all. But it's very small. There's a place called Turtle Creek, pretty close. And it does flood. And y'all, a woman, look, every now and then you would hear the stories. A folk musician in her VW Beetle was swept off of Turtle Creek one night, rescued, clinging to trees, hours after that happened. Thank God she was okay. Every now and then you'd hear about some student coming out of Austin. There was a guy swept off the road when I was in college, going out to the Oasis, just swept off the road and died. So you would hear these stories. And then you heard about the really big flood in Kerrville on the Guadalupe in the 80s. Then you heard about the really big flood in Wimberley about a decade ago now. And so it does happen. The flash flooding is something that people live with, and it was part of their resilience that they lived with. But I'm going to tell you that living with it, camping in it, I've lived through a zillion rainstorms now, it feels like, in a tent. Okay, big, thank you, Rick, the flood of 87. I couldn't remember the year. I was going to guess that. But when we were down there, just back in May, I talked about this with y'all when it was done. We experienced a storm on my very first night. That would be the Thursday before Memorial Day weekend. And it was unlike any storm I have ever experienced there. It was a beautiful night, little breeze, beautiful night. We're up at the main stage, first night of the music, just the perfect, pristine weather, cool. It cools off at night, cools off. It's beautiful. The nights there are gorgeous. And then all of a sudden there's a little lightning off to our east. The thing is, the storms move generally west to east, generally. So you look at that and you say, okay, that's past us. Not going to worry about that. That's going to go that way, east. And then all of a sudden it starts to rain. And then all of a sudden there's lightning. So they cancel the show. And so we're kind of laughing, first storm of the year. And then the skies, it just exploded over us. And I'm convinced now that you could look at the radar, what happened was it had moved past us. And then this water in the atmosphere just blew up right on top of us. So that you could not, I don't think you could have predicted that, because it was supposed to still go in front of us, but it just blew up right over us. And all of a sudden, it's already raining, y'all. We're already hiding from the rain, and this is the warning we got. Destructive baseball-sized hail. Take shelter in a sturdy building, away from windows. People and animals outdoor will be severely injured. This is the message. We are outdoors, keep in mind. There are 1,000 people getting this message simultaneously, and it didn't come in until the storm had already happened. Now, again, I don't think I blame the local officials for this, because I'm very confident that this simply blew up on top of us. Absolutely blew up on top of us. The thing that I think I now understand about what happened the other day on the 4th of July is that same thing happened just 9 miles north of where I was on that May night. And this is a graphic from a video from the San Antonio weather. This is Kerr County, and this is the rainfall. They got somewhere between 10 plus 10 plus inches of rain. 10 plus inches. This isn't even the whole county. Kerrville is about in the middle of the county. Half the county right there. What I'm pointing out to you is that rain had to fall. In order for this to happen, that rain had to fall right there. And it had to be 10 plus inches. The forecast, the warnings said 6 to 7 inches. Okay, that's very different. 10 plus inches, y'all. This is absolutely true. Within a couple of hours of that horrible night, 100 billion gallons of water fell in this area right there. 100 billion. The river starts right there. So it flows down the hills right into the river, and suddenly you have an incredibly horrific disaster. Now, David is saying this. Comfort installed a warning alarm system after they lost 10 teenagers on a bus in 1987. Local officials there credit their success in evacuating people over this weekend to that warning system. I do think that warning systems are important, and they probably needed one there. They absolutely needed one there. But I also have read, there's a Houston Chronicle story out that says the folks in Kerr County have applied for state money 5 times to help them fund this, David, this warning system, and they've been turned down 5 times for funding in the last 10 years. This is out with the Houston Chronicle this morning. So again, there's going to be multiple blame to go around for sure about this. I have such empathy and sympathy for how quickly this happened. The other truth is this was 4 a.m. when this happened. It was between 1 and 4 in the morning when the heavy rains began to fall. Everybody's asleep. I guarantee you what you do. I do it at the folk festival. If it's raining hard, you just crawl in your tent. What else you going to do? What else you going to do? The dam broke in Ingram, that's downstream from the camp. But the other thing to keep in mind, y'all, is, and I'm going to be a little defensive of the camp, I think, till I learn more, maybe, I don't know. But they were doing, I know more than I can say. That's all I'll say about what happened there. I know a family connected with our church whose daughter was there. And thanks be to God is safe. I'm not going to say much more about them, but I've talked with them and it was horrific. It was horrific what happened at Camp Mystic. And there was heroic effort, in my opinion, by the camp staff. But keep in mind that we now have 100 victims. Only a third of them, I say only, it sounds terrible to say that, a third of them were these beautiful little girls. That means that 70 other people, many of them adults, also died. So it caught a lot of people off guard. I think the Kerr County people, what I've heard them say is, yes, a warning system probably would have helped. Yes, we probably could have saved more people with a warning system. Would it have saved everybody? They kind of say no. And I think I probably horrifically agree with that. I don't think they could have saved everybody, but I think I could be wrong for this. Michael Wesley saying this, when I was a working man, I used to tell my people, employees and customers, we could look for solutions or blame. And if we wanted to look for blame, they could be assured there was enough to go around for all. This is exactly where I am, Michael. Thank you. This is very wise. I think if we're going to blame, we have to probably blame everybody, including all of us, for living in a world where we now have storms that drop this much water. This is new, y'all. Well, this is what we said when we got this warning for this storm in May. It was a wake-up call for some of us out at the ranch, and we are humbled. And I think it'd be fair to say, I think I said this. I may have said this on Coffee on the Porch, that it made me wonder about the future of outdoor camping. It really did. Because these storms are different. They just simply are different. If you're going to tell me, yeah, but you should have been ready. Okay, but I don't think anybody was ready for this much rain because it simply hasn't happened there yet. And if you expect us to be on alert all the time, I think it's not credible, honestly. Pete Delkus, just last night, our local weather god here in Dallas, he went through all the warnings. And it is sobering because you can see there really were warnings from the National Weather Service. There also have been cuts by DOGE to the offices in both San Antonio and San Angelo. Those are the two areas to the north and south that cover this area. There are fewer staff there, 100%, including some of those who work in sending out pre-warnings. That is absolutely true. There's all sorts of blame, as Michael is saying, and it's so easy in retrospect. This is what we do. We all do it. I do it. When I see a disaster somewhere else, when I see a hurricane, why didn't they leave? Or an earthquake. Why do people live in California? Or wildfires. Why do they live there in a place that might burn up? Don't they know to leave? It's so easy to sit on your screen and criticize those who weren't there. This is just where my heart still is today. The loss is immense and incalculable right now. And just if you can, if you are willing, this is some of the damage. I had this picture. This is some of the damage from the May storm. See, this was this is a stainless steel cross piece, which is supposed to be at a four-way 90-degree angle. See, it's supposed to be a cross piece, up, down, left, right. It got bent 90 degrees by the straight line winds that we had. We have never seen anything like this. We were looking at this the next morning and thinking, oh my God, thankfully we are alive. Thankfully we didn't die. This is literally what we were saying back in May. My God, thank you that we got through this storm. These storms are stronger. And yes, it's going to take some serious thought. And I hope we are up to this. We need politicians to do more than thoughts and prayers. We also need them to do more than simply blaming each other or blaming somebody else. I do think the higher you go up into the government, the more you can blame. This is where I am. The least amount of blame I have is for the Kerr County people. And I'm sorry, maybe some others feel differently about this. But I think we need to ask about that state funding. Why didn't that ever happen? I think we should ask about federal funding from from all administrations and all sides. We need to ask these questions. Do a song. I'm going to close you today with a song I wrote when I was down there. Heath Williams says this: the fact that some want to say these storms themselves are weaponized. I saw that last night. I blocked someone. Heath is pointing out there are now rumors that some cabal of the elite are, I guess, shooting ions. I don't know what they would say it is, making the storms worse intentionally, and maybe doing it in red areas, or I don't even know. But I literally, somebody left a comment. I don't know who this person was, and I blocked them. I did, because I'm just not gonna put up with that. No. But this is what we do when something incomprehensible happens to us. Our minds want there to be a reason. The reason we look for scapegoats and fault is because it comforts us. It's not just a justice thing, but it comforts us to know there was a reason. And that is a helpful thing to do until we get to the conspiracies. And I understand why the mind goes to the conspiracies, because the sadness is too much. It's just too much. It's too much to bear. 27 little girls gone. Harrowing stories of people dying. It's too much. And so the mind goes to conspiracy sometimes. So you're right, Heath. This is a song I wrote about the hill country after a girl had kind of broken up with me for good. Where and when did our theodicy become a scapegoat is what we have to be careful of. Yeah, well, Heath, we need to recognize, since you mentioned it, see, this is why I'm not a fan of atonement theology, because I believe atonement theology leads to this, saying that Jesus was the innocent victim when he flipped over temple tables, when he talked about the temple being destroyed and built back up, when he called religious leaders broods of vipers, when he called demons a legion, which is the word for a Roman garrison. Look, Jesus was pushing hard, and there are reasons, no doubt, why he was crucified. He was not an innocent victim. Should he have been crucified? No, I don't think so. I think he was speaking the truth. But we need to understand that we tell ourselves this story of innocence in Jesus, which then we want to put onto ourselves and then blame others, the Jews, the Romans, the leaders, the cabal, somebody else, rather than looking squarely at the face of the sadness and holding space for the sadness. Y'all, let's hold space a little longer. I've talked a lot about the meteorology in the hill country and all this, but hold space for the sadness. As I said this morning, I know people driving in a truck toward, I'm not going to say the town, expecting, I'm afraid, that a house is no longer there. That's happening to somebody I know. I know the pastor in one of the churches in Kerrville, a dear friend who just moved there. He started July 1st. Paul Barton started at St. Paul's in Kerrville. God bless him. 4 days later, this happens. The Methodist Church in Kerrville opened up as a Red Cross Center. I haven't even said, if you want to donate, go to our Kessler Park website, donate there. We're happy to send the money along. We've already raised a couple of $1,000s that we'll send directly to our Methodist folks. But hold space for those who are still suffering. I got to get off of here because I got to go to a medical appointment. A doctor, it's okay. Just a routine. This is a song that I wrote years ago when I lived in Mason. And a girl that I was still hopeful about found somebody new. But the song is mostly about a gray day driving through those hills. So here's to the hills. There's a time before the sun's last light finally slips away, when the line between the hills and clouds get lost within a deep blue-gray. What else can I say? I gave my heart my all. The darkness whispers, pray, beware the coming fall. Turn the wipers on to brush those tears out of the sky. And palm, they do the same job on my eye. As I think of you, what else can I do? Drove through a cold old front just this side of Mason. Chill upon my spine reminds me I'm still chasing love that's just not there. Unless you someday say you care. The hills and the clouds, the hills and the clouds, the hills and the clouds. Got a good mind to loop around the town, drive night and day, till I finally find some quiet place beyond this deep blue gray. But it's far away, and they say you cannot stay, for persistent haze grows as mind's movies ever play. The hills and the clouds lost in deep blue gray. The love I thought I found lost in deep blue gray. My life, my heart, my all lost in deep blue gray. The hills and the clouds are lost in deep blue gray. My life, my heart, my all lost in deep blue gray. The love I thought I found lost in deep blue gray. The hills and the clouds lost in deep blue gray. Oh, it's a very old song from yours truly, written somewhere in the year that I spent in Mason. That's on my first record, by the way. Way back. Way back. Y'all, keep praying for all the beautiful people down there, for all the people all over our state who are suffering loss, unfathomable loss, for those who are suffering loss who live down there, for the beauty of this land. By the way, I didn't say this earlier, but you can see it right there, y'all. You see this cut through? I meant to mention this. See this cut through? Do you see the rock? They have to cut through the rock to make this cut through. Look up at the top. There's like an inch. There's maybe 3 inches of dirt at the top. And then it's rock. So there is no place for this water to go. We've always known this. We've always known this. But this is where my heart is. I think things really are different now. And I'm afraid we're going to keep hearing this kind of story in climate challenged places all over the world, frankly, probably in every part of the world. We're going to start hearing about stronger storms, bigger floods everywhere. And it is going to take better warning systems. It's going to take some sober questions for all of us about how we deal with these things. But hold space for these beautiful folks, y'all, for everybody suffering, for and if you run into people who are talking about the conspiracy theories or there's going to be plenty of blame. We'll figure out the blame, y'all. We really will. We're smart as humans. We'll figure this out. I will say, though, the Doge stuff bugs the crap out of me. Really does. So these were the songs I played today. Surrender, which is an instrumental that just is about the times like this where you just have to surrender to the unfathomable mystery of life, and including death. And then Deep Blue Gray, which is on the very first Eric Folkerth record. I don't think I have a copy of that one handy for you to look at. But if you want to hear that song, it sounds quite different on the record. A lot of background vocals, a lot of layered in vocals there. Come see us at Kessler Park. Carol Ann did. She came. Y'all, the rest of you, if you're close, come by, see us. We're there every Sunday. This is a beautiful example of the children there at Kessler Park. I should say, if you want to join us, we have a coffee hour coming up on Thursday. We'll be at White Rhino Coffee for a little coffee in the real world coffee time. Come join us if you want. That's over at White Rhino on Fort Worth Avenue in Oak Cliff. Actually, West Dallas, technically. And do give. I can post a link for you right here, I believe. Let me see if I can do that real quick before we go. I think you all know this, but our website is kpumc.org. You will find an online giving page there and be able to give to disaster relief through the drop-down window. Our Methodist connections allow us to assure you that 100% of your donation goes straight to the cause. It will go to people I know personally. It will go to the people in the Rio, Texas conference, the people in the actual churches of Kerrville, in the epicenter, to First Methodist Kerrville that is literally right now serving as a Red Cross shelter. So I can personally, in a way that I often cannot, but I certainly can this time, I know exactly where the money will go, and I will assure you that 100% of it will go there. So if you would like to make a donation, it will go to aid and assist our United Methodist efforts there, but in the tangential way, it will also be assisting the Red Cross, because we are working with the Red Cross. We work with them through all these things. All right, y'all. Thank you for being here. It's late. I got to get my budding gear. I got to be. I'm getting a new doctor, which is a good thing. I need to get rid of my old one, so I got to go see him in a minute. Thank you for letting me talk extensively about this. I feel like I was all over the place. It's very, very close to the bone, very close to the heart, that part of the world. And I know it is for many of you. And pray for the people here in Dallas whose families were directly affected, people we know at our church. There's going to be, for those who survived, when you survive something like this, there is still also a lot to overcome. So big prayers, y'all. Until next week, thank you for joining us on Coffee on the Porch. We had a very big group here today. I hope you enjoyed it. It was selfishly really helpful to me to be able to share these stories with you. So thank you for that. And until next time, then, we hope you bear up under these challenging times. And this has been Coffee on the Porch. God bless. See you next time. Okay. Bye-bye.